Hey everyone. As always, I have to give some sort of introduction to this, so I'm just gonna explain. That this part of the Shgurr's Draw My Life series is probably one of the ones I relate to the most, and you'll see why. Um, this is part 2. Part 3 will be out in a little bit, but this is only part 2. So, there are 4 parts total. If you haven't seen the last one, I explained a bit of this. There'll be 4 parts because there were 4 videos that she created, and sorry if you guys can't tell, I'm already worked up. I had to cry beforehand so I wouldn't cry during. I'm not kidding. I went and watched Your Lie in April, some of the saddest moments of Your Lie in April, which is such a sad anime that it made me cry for like 30 minutes straight, which is why I'm a bit late recording this. But yeah, so I'm still a bit upset about that. But either way, that anime always gets me to cry though. It's so sad. That's the best way to phrase it. And I need to point out, guys, crying is very healthy. Don't judge people who cry. It is one of the healthiest ways to deal with stress because it helps you let everything out that you wouldn't be able to get out through any other methods. Do not ask me why I'm defending myself here. I just wanted to state why I cried. I don't know why. Anyways, let's get into it.
Not really explored much in the storytime community.
We will never be friends.
A powerful emotion, if left unchecked, can be deadly.
Aw, you just love sitting by yourself.
Everyone wants to pretend it doesn't exist in them.
Why would I invite you? Only cool people are allowed. You thought we were friends in the first place?
You push it down so far. You hide behind a mask, but when you're at your limit... Not getting invited to that party sent me over the edge. I was that girl's only friend in class, and I wasn't even good enough to get invited to her birthday party. It wasn't about the party, though. It was about what that meant. The way she laughed and smiled at me, it filled me with anger I had never experienced before. To her, I was just scum. I was just someone she could dispose of. So that's how it is. I've been so blind. There's no such thing as friends. All people do is take. No one is gonna take anything from me anymore. And just like that, my world was closed off. I was fundamentally broken. I stopped aging mentally, in fact. Until someone showed me what true friendship was, I would remain there for a long time. I was so messed up in the head that just the sight of happy people or friendships filled me with rage and disgust. Now, there is still a part of me deep down that still wanted friendship, but over and over.
Should we go into class? No, there isn't anyone worth talking to in there.
People kept proving me wrong. Did I only exist to be everyone's punching bag? Someone has to be the loser, so I guess that was my role. I only existed so others could feel better about themselves. If that was the case, I'd rather just disappear. If no one wanted me, I didn't want anyone either. I focused all my efforts into blending in with the background, becoming unnoticeable, unmemorable. I stopped smiling, stopped interacting, stopped being present. Most of my school days are, in fact, a blur. I spent most of the time escaping into my own mind. I started living in the third person. A happy mask was always around when adults addressed me. My actual self was so far away from my own body, I started to forget to even live for myself. I was basically a robot at that point. I did whatever my parents, school, church told me. I was treating my life like a simulation. As long as I followed their instructions, I'd get a good ending one day. Right? I was miserable. People annoyed me. Their existence was a nuisance. I did, however, have a very strange trait. No matter how mean people were to me. Hey, look at this loser. Aw, never had a girlfriend, huh? Maybe if you weren't such a fat lard, maybe you could do something worthwhile in your life. Hey, You're disturbing the peace. What's this got to do with you? Yeah, just leave us alone. What's that? Do you enjoy picking on this kid? Do me a favor and go be a slut somewhere else, okay? Jeez, fine. Hey, thanks, maybe we could be friends. Been there, done that. Bye. Huh? For some reason, I was fine standing up for others, but not for myself. I didn't like the idea that someone else would feel the same way I did, but I certainly was not looking for friendship. What can I say? I had messed up morals. One night, my church was hosting a camp kickoff. There were games and activities set up for the girls to get them excited for camp week. As you can tell from part 1, I hated girls' camp, so being my edgy self, I just stood next to the closest exit. Being around those girls made me feel more alone, so being close to the exit made it tolerable, at least. Alright, girls, who's ready for some camp activities? Girls' camp is so great. The community, the love. This year's camp's theme is togetherness. We all fit together like a puzzle. Fit together like a puzzle? I'm the piece of the puzzle you shove in even though I'm clearly from a different board. Gag me with a spoon, this is so lame. Ugh, I know, right? Your parents make you attend too? Huh? Oh yeah, who is this chick? I was just surprised anyone wanted to talk to me. This is pretty dang boring. Hey, you just want to hang in the parking lot? Okay. I got a different feeling from her. Talking to her was super comfortable and fun. We were in the parking lot talking for a long time when all of a sudden she nudged into me. I nudged her back and, well... Can fights be consensual? That's the only way I would describe this fight. We beat the living snot out of each other. It's going to sound strange, but that is one of my fondest memories. It's not like we became good friends after that. She was in a different church ward, so we never saw each other. But I think I was just craving any sense of real feeling. And for some reason, beating her up made me live a little. If she understood me, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there were other good people out there. Maybe my life was finally heading in a brighter direction.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this, and then I'll finish off the video. There's only like 20 seconds left. I'm going to start off with the fight, first of all. So this whole month was to appreciate the animations, but this series I need to point out, I'm more working on the story part of it, because I always think that story times are very important to work on more of the story than the actual animation, you know? But anyways, the fight right there, can fights be consensual? I would say yes. For anyone who hasn't met me in real life, I tend to spar with friends a lot. I have literally been beaten. I've had the crap beaten out of me several times, and I've beaten the crap out of my friends several times. We used to always train, as we called it, or we'd spar, or whatever we wanted to call it back then. To this day, I still occasionally have these matches with my friends, and it's something that we agree upon. Of course, we wear protective gear and all that, but we're basically beating each other till one of us is knocked out. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, my pain tolerance is very high, mostly because I've been through a lot of physical pain in my life. I've had 12 broken bones, I've cracked my head open 3 times, I have had 3 sprained, what are they called? Or not sprained, strained tendons, is that what they're called? Oh god, I don't know, whatever they're called. I have had several puncture wounds. I've had my wrist cut once, which was horrifying as a kid. Lost a lot of blood that day. I've been stabbed twice. I mentioned that in the last video. I've had my elbow cut so cleanly that there was no blood. I've been through a lot. And I have to admit, the clean cuts normally don't hurt because, of course, they're just a clean cut. But I've had a lot of damage inflicted upon my body, and I've survived. So my pain tolerance is pretty damn high. Not to mention, I worked on a farm. A lot of the stuff kind of comes around. But when I was younger, I used to be just like Shgurr was. I used to be so cut off from a lot of people. Even people in school would realize that unless you were really close with me before all this stuff happened, like in elementary school or beforehand, I would basically close you out. I would normally block you off and not even pay attention to you. There were 3 people I ever really talked to in elementary school, and in middle school I still talk to them. But in middle school, there were a few people who those 3 friends had tried opening me up to, and for them I decided to attempt it. Now, those 3 friends, they introduced me to several other friends who later on became good friends with me. One of my my best friends right now is Orion. He's been here with me for a long time, and I got his permission to say his first name. I didn't get permission to say his last name, so I'm not going to. But Orion, you are one cool ass dude. um, my point is, there's a lot of stuff that ends up with me feeling like I'm just all pent up, and I don't know how else to get rid of that negative emotion. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, crying is a major way to do that. Sometimes forcing yourself to cry by watching something sad. For me, it used to be the movie Hachiko. I'm sorry, anytime a dog is that cute and that loyal, it makes me cry, because when a tragic thing happens, you know it's gonna be sad. But nowadays it's just watching Your Lie in April, because, dear God, I've watched it a million times by now, and I haven't stopped crying once. It's efficient. And I force myself to cry a lot, because if you guys don't know, I mentioned this in the last video, I put on a mask. The majority of the time, I refuse to show people that I'm actually hurting. My explanation for that is I don't want them to know I'm hurting. I don't want them to think that I'm trying to bring everything down. I don't want them to feel bad for me. And that's not really a healthy way to look at it. It really isn't. But I will most of the time just mask whatever I'm going through. And that's a lot of the time you'll notice on my videos. God, I'm starting to tear up now. You'll notice on my videos that I tend to be extremely energetic very rarely. Other times it's more just a normal amount of energy that is normal. Now, for anyone who isn't aware, I already have a lot of energy all the time, but when I'm not feeling good, or I'm not feeling very happy, or I'm just in a depressed state, a lot of the time it'll come across as just a normal amount of energy, because at that point, I just don't feel good. I'm not willing to put in that extra 500% that I normally have on a regular basis. And you can tell a difference. Like, look at any of my videos. If I'm not extremely hyper or just say random things, which is my normal personality, if I'm not able to do something random or wacky, then you'll know that I'm not doing well. And that's the best way to phrase it. Now, I don't ever want anyone to give me sympathy. I don't ever want sympathy. Just like how Shgurr said in the first episode, which I think I actually cut out that part. It was at the beginning. I started it a few seconds in. By accident. No, because I had to skip the ad, the sponsor. That's right. She said that she doesn't want to do this series for sympathy. She wants to do it to help anyone who's been through similar things. So I don't want sympathy either. To be honest, I'll be honest right now. I've never cared about myself. I never once gave the smallest crap about how I ended up. Which I'll talk about more later on when we get to the 4th episode, which is the final one, because that is the most important one to me. A lot of the things that I've experienced has made me go down a path that I was fine with. I never cared what had happened to me, what kind of results I would have in how it ended up. Like, that's the best way to phrase it. I don't want to go too far into detail until we get to that part. But, I never gave a crap about how I ended up. But the one thing that kept me going was the fact that other people have been through such tragic events. Like, I always wanted to help people. That was always the one thing that I considered my goal. The one thing I considered my purpose was to help people and make some sort of difference. And if I were just to give up would I really be able to help anyone? No, I'd be abandoning them. The one thing that I refuse to do. I refuse to abandon anyone who needs help or anyone who is in trouble. It is my purpose, in my perspective, it is my own purpose to make a difference. And if that means keeping myself alive, then you bet your ass I will. Like I said, if I died, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I would be perfectly content with me going. I never really have cared. I've never really been afraid of death, and that's a sad thing to say. However, it's not the same thing as being suicidal. I gotta point that out right now. I have never really been terribly suicidal. I will admit right now, I've had suicidal thoughts in my past. And no, I've never really attempted suicide. And that's something that I am proud to say. But that's only because I had people who I wanted to help in the long run. Even people who I haven't met yet, that someday I might be able to help, I don't want to end it soon and just give up. It's a coward's way out. It's not solving anything, it's just making everything in the world worse, even though I'm not there. It's selfish. So that's the best way to phrase that. But moving on, before I move on, actually, I just wanted to point out the fighting thing I do all the time. I do consider it consensual when neither person is screaming for a ceasefire. You're both beating the crap out of each other, and you're both enjoying it. And of course, like I said, we use safety equipment. We always have a helmet on. Well, I never have a helmet on because my skull has been way worse. I've cracked my head open 3 times, and to this day, I still can bash a pole over my head, and it will not break open. It only happens when I fall off something from very high up. And I'll tell you right now, I've fallen off the top of my barn and cracked my head open and survived. That's about how hard I have to hit my head. But I've hit a metal pole against my head several times on video, by the way. I've done that in the past on video and stream and other things. I've been fine. We always wear equipment. We always make sure that neither of us are going to get hurt, depending on who I'm fighting with. One friend tends to use brass knuckles, which aren't really brass knuckles. They're made out of wood, but whatever. And we don't use actual weapons. We use practice weapons that are made out of like soft wood or whatever. Occasionally, my friend will use a metal pole because I tell him he can, and I don't care. I do feel alive when I'm able to get hurt. And it's a weird thing. It's not always something that I enjoy. Like, I've mentioned this in the past. Yes, I am a masochist. But no, it's not that kind of masochism, okay? For me, it's the feeling of being alive is something that I very rarely get unless I'm able to be in that rush, that zone where you're just like, yeah, this is happening. So yeah, and if you guys can't tell, I'm exposing a lot about myself that I haven't exactly elaborated on in the past. I've told you guys the gist of it, but I never really elaborated on it. Also, I wanted to point out that I really used to be like her when it came to kind of staying on your own. But anytime anyone was being harassed or bullied, you would step in. I was always like that. I have never, ever let someone get bullied without doing something. I've literally walked in front of people, and I'll tell you guys right now, my school, Penfield, was always really strict on bullies. Like, they were very strict against bullying. They would never really allow it. They were very strict to the point where people would get suspended for the first warning of just verbally harassing someone. That's how strict they were. But in elementary school, which is where most of this had started, it was like 5th grade and late 5th grade and early 6th grade, which is where this all happened. And if you guys don't know, 6th grade is middle school, but yeah. But late 5th grade was when it kind of began, where one bully who had been bullying me since 1st grade had become very physical with one of my classmates. Not even one of my friends, but one of my classmates. She had basically knocked him out twice. And this is the thing, is he was very fragile. He was very weak and just didn't like to fight. He would just try and run. And to this day, he still doesn't like to fight. Although now he's much bigger and he can actually fend for himself if he needed to. He's very strong too, and he's very dang fast. Like, he can run far and fast. That's the scary thing. But back then, he would get beat up all the time by her, and then she eventually got, in 7th grade, She had two friends who actually ended up knocking him out and actually making him crack his head open almost as hard as I had. So he was rushed to the hospital, and no one knew what happened except for me and two other students who were the friends, and of course the bully. And of course I reported it. Of course I did, but there was no way to prove it. So I'm just like, well, shit. But the next time it happened, they went to go attack him, and I stood in the way, and I'm just like, you fuck off. And this is like the time where I was just starting to swear, which was horrible because as a kid, you should not be swearing. And I'll tell you guys right now, I had my mouth washed out with soap a few times because my parents actually did that as a punishment. But I told them that you better fuck off or I won't move. Basically, I didn't even threaten them. I was just like, I'm not moving. So what they would do is they would just beat up on me instead, and my friend would just sit there and watch, and I was like, dude, get out of here. I got this. I was one weird kid. I would take all the hits for anyone, and it was horrifying for my mom. To this day, she probably doesn't even know how I got half my black eyes. Oh, Mom, you were too trusting of me when I said I kept falling. No, I never really said I fell, but I kept saying that I was the kind of kid who would get dared to punch myself in the face, and I would do it. So I kept telling my mom that, well, they told me to punch myself in the face, so I did. And my mom's just like, why the hell would you do that? Oh, and I believe I'm pretty sure for most of the time, she actually believed that was what was happening. But at some point, it just became like, no, this can't be the truth. So yeah, it was pretty obvious at one point. But I would stand there and just literally take punch after punch. And I actually think I've broken a few bones just from that, because I got home and I had a bunch of bruises on my arms, and my parents never knew about those because I always wore heavy clothing. I always have my whole life. If you were in my high school or middle school, which I know there's two people who have met me in high school or middle school and have seen me in that kind of outfit that watch my videos, I always wore heavy clothing, sweatshirts, coats, vests, hoodies, like anything I could get. Did I just say hoodies? I don't know. Anyways, I would always wear some sort of heavy clothing, but that was for two reasons. One, it would conceal any bruises that I did take, because in middle school I got a lot of bruises, and no one really knew about it except for me. But at one point I was just like, nah, no one's gonna punch me because I'm in high school, and they will literally suspend people and then expel them the second time. Actually, no. If you verbally harass someone, it is considered a suspension. If you attack someone physically, it's considered an automatic, you're automatically expelled. Expulsion, is that what it's called? You are automatically expelled. And that was something I actually had happened twice. Two people got expelled because they tried punching me. And no, I wasn't a tattletale, for anyone who wants to say that. Being a tattletale is only if no one's being harmed by it. And I was physically being harmed. Even though I was willing to stand there and take it, I wasn't going to allow them to keep beating up on people in general. Because it wasn't just me they were attacking. I was the one who would stand in the way, therefore they had to go through me in order to get to the other people. But I know when I wasn't there, they would have still done the same thing. I wasn't going to risk having friends hurt. And even not even friends, people who I knew. Or didn't know, actually, to be honest. Most of the people in my school I didn't even know. But the whole point of this is, if anyone ever needed some sort of meat shield, I would be the one who would jump in for it. Because honestly, I had nothing to lose. I have been through way worse than what those kids can put me through. The emotional pain I've suffered is way worse than the physical pain I would have had to endure. And that's another thing I always say is I'd rather take a few hits and gain a few bruises than take a few L's and force my friends to have to suffer because I was refusing to jump in. Because emotional pain is a scar that does not leave, but bruises will always die down over time. That's something that I always referred to, because I refuse to stay on the sideline. I won't let people get injured or hurt in any way, emotionally or anything. I won't allow them to go through pain if I have the opportunity to step in. So that's basically how I like to phrase that, is I won't sit on the sidelines, because I'd rather take multiple bruises and punches and even broken bones than have to endure the emotional pain knowing that I did nothing. So yeah. God, I'm actually surprisingly doing well, but also I'm still sort of tearing up a bit. Thank you, Your Line April. You prepared me for this. So yeah, I'm gonna end this video now. It's a bit, yeah, it's a bit late. It's a 6-minute video. More than 2/3 of this video has been me talking. Ah, that's bad. Anyways, so yeah, we'll get into part 3 tomorrow, or no, actually later tonight. And then part 4 will probably be another day, probably tomorrow. We'll see. But anyways, that's all. I'm gonna finish up the video and then I'll end the video. Okay, so that's all. Anyways, that's all for this video. Like I said, like I always say, is her link to her channel will be in the description below. If anyone ever needs a friend or someone to talk to or just someone who won't judge them, like I said, I'm never judgmental. I said this in the last video. I've got no right to judge anyone. I've been through way worse, and I can't consider anyone less valuable than myself when I already consider myself pretty dang useless. And that's just a fact. Anyways, no, but seriously, if anyone ever needs to talk, I have my Discord and my, what's it called? Email down below. I didn't know how to use my Twitter last time. I'm very sorry for that. I should mention that I wasn't able to put that in the description below because I didn't know how to share a link to that. I couldn't figure it out. I spent like 30 minutes trying to find a way to link my own Twitter to YouTube, but I didn't know how. So I'm just going to take an L on that one and say email me or use my Discord. Yeah, so of course, check out any of the links below. Shgurr's channel, my Discord, and my email. I'd rather you guys go to Shgurr's channel if you just need some sort of entertaining stuff, since my Discord is only entertaining if you like RPGs, because we have an RPG bot, but that's about it. But anyways, yeah, so let me know if you ever need a friend. I'm willing to listen. And it doesn't have to be a permanent friend. I'll be a friend for 30 minutes, or for however long it'll take for you to talk, you know? I'll just sit there and listen and let you know what I think. Or don't let you know what I think. Sometimes just having someone there to listen to is the best, or listen to you is the best thing that can happen. You don't even always need feedback. That's something I find interesting. I hate to keep this video going, but anytime I tend to vent to people, which is a very rare thing, I always hear this kind of like voice that it's hard to explain. It's this younger me that's just like, yeah, this is nice. And then as soon as they give me some sort of feedback like, have you tried doing this? Or maybe this would have been a better solution to that. I'm like, old man me doesn't like this. Shut up. Yeah, so it's that weird innocence versus reality kind of thing. Where my innocent self is like, yeah, I like opening up, it's nice. And then as soon as they give me some sort of negative feedback, or feedback in general, just saying like, well, this is horrible. I wish I could be there for you. Like, I wish I could help you out with that. And I'm like, it's fine. And then they go, did you try talking to them? I'm like, I don't want advice. I just want to vent. There's a major difference between wanting a solution and wanting to express yourself. So yeah. Anyways, that's all. Bye, everyone.